Greetings, beloved. I'm Dr. Felicia LeBoy, lead pastor and life coach here at the historic First United Methodist Church in downtown Elgin, Illinois, with another motivational moment from the Bible. These motivational moments are designed to help us take what we hear during our worship time, what we may read during our private devotional time, to take those biblical concepts and to make them a part of our everyday life. If you joined us this past Sunday, if you joined anyone, usually the last Sunday in October is All Saints Sunday. It's the Sunday that we celebrate those who have gone on before us, that we acknowledge that we stand on the heroes and sheroes of the faith, and that they have left a legacy for us. And we acknowledge, like, just like people in a marathon race, or not a marathon, the ones where they pass off the baton, that just like we've been given this baton of faith, that we have to pass that on to others. As we kind of have that idea in mind, I want us to think this week on this idea: all God's children and all our children. And no, I'm not talking about the soap opera, for those of you who remember the soap opera All Our Children or All My Children. But I want to talk about a different idea. And I want to look at the two scriptures that you see beside me. The first comes from Proverbs 13 and 22, and it's from the Good News Translation. And it says, "Good people will have wealth to leave their grandchildren, but the wealth of sinners will go to the righteous." And the other verse comes from Deuteronomy 14, 28 through 29, and it comes from the New International Reader's Version, and it reads this: "At the end of every 3 years, bring a tenth of everything you produce that year. Store it in your towns, and then the Levites, that's the priests, can come and eat. That's because they won't receive any part of the land as their share. The outsiders, that's foreigners that are part of the land of Israel, widows who live in your towns can come. And so can the children whose fathers have died. Everyone can have plenty to eat. Then the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do." In the second passage, what Moses is doing is he recognizes that he's going to die, and he's trying to leave the children of Israel with some rules about how they are to live in the promised land, how they're to live once God brings them into the fullness of what God has for them. And so he's telling them, look, when you come into all that God has for you, don't forget those who are less fortunate than you. Take care of the people that are coming behind you, right? And as I read both of these two verses and kind of smack these together, it seems to me that good people not only leave wealth for their own families, but they leave wealth for other people behind them. Now, there's no arguing that Rockefeller and Carnegie had questionable business practices, right? But Rockefeller, I understand, considered himself a Christian, and that part of his understanding of his practice was that he had an obligation to leave resources beyond his family, libraries, museums, and all that, for the common good. Beloved, I believe with all my heart that if we just do what's in Proverbs alone and just leave things for our own grandchildren, then we can promote and continue legacies of inequality. We can create vast distortions of wealth. But what we can do is that if we leave an inheritance that not only includes a legacy of faith, but also leave behind resources that can continue the ministries that we have gained, then we can be in a position so that future generations can continue the great faith that was started by our forebearers. So let me give you a good example about how that works at First United Methodist Church. We are the beneficiaries of people who, by their faithfulness and their giving, built a church that has lasted over 100 years, who gave sacrificially for that, who left money in endowment funds and scholarship funds, who I know took care of their own children, but also gave not only to our church and established the faith in their children, and this idea of giving and serving and all of that for their children, but also left a legacy at our church so that we could continue to do the same these 100 years and beyond later. Now that's incredible to me. And if I go back to the first people who planted my church is over 180 years old. You see this incredible legacy? As we are beginning our stewardship campaign, which is this campaign where we say to God, God, we want to be we want to step up to recognize that we own nothing, that you give us the power to gain wealth, that you are the one who blesses the work of our hands, who makes sure that we have all of our provision. We understand that we brought nothing into this world and we surely can't take anything out. We want to make sure, God, that as we are spending and giving and saving and making sure that we take care of our children, our natural children, but also, God, that we prepare for your spiritual children, that we are like the people of Israel who have stepped into the promise, who can trust, God, that if we give sacrificially, then not only will our families, our natural immediate families, will be taken care of, God, but that you will bless us in everything we do because we take time to take care of outsiders, of widows, of those who don't have as much. And we take care of your children and we prepare and are faithful in our time together now so that 100 years from now, we can peer over the banister of heaven and watch and see the great things you'll do with the people who are coming behind us. To get a better feel for what that's like, I ask that you stick around for this week's Refresh Your Soul moment and listen to Natasha Perez's song, What Is Said and Done. It reminds us that you and I are called to not only to live a legacy of faith and generosity, we're also called to leave a legacy of faith and generosity. Beloved, I am Dr. Felicia LeBoy, lead pastor and life coach of this great historic church, First United Methodist Church. I love you. Be blessed. Don't forget, we are all God's children, and everyone is all our children. You and I are required to live a legacy, leave a legacy. See you next week.